Hey, what's up, Star Hunters? It's Orion sent you. Welcome to today's video. It took a while to get made, but I do hope you enjoyed. This is my double feature to celebrate Black History Month, and for this double feature, I'm going to be doing a release of, you guessed it from the thumbnail, Static Shock as a PL10 electricity user, and as I promised, since it is a double feature, I'm doing a re-release of Black Panther, T'Challa, as a PL12 character. So, this gave me a chance to explore what you could do with a PL12 character for the increased damage, the increased capabilities, and also to get some of T'Challa's stats around where I feel they should be, and really just round out his character. And I also got a request from someone who said that they didn't know how to figure out non-minion versus non-minion combat. They weren't sure what kind of things a hero would use, what strategies, what actions, and so that was what inspired this double feature, where in the end, instead of it being a Fistful of Nazis run, it is a sparring match between T'Challa and Static. And I got a little story in there. I hope you guys do enjoy the story time. And yeah, so we're in for quite the blast. Let's get ready to rock and roll. Ready? Let's go. So first we're going to start with Static. This is his character sheet. I made him as a power level 10 character, but I still have him as a student. Now, I very much debated making him a power level 8 character, but for this dynamic to work, I wanted him to be power level 10, and I wanted T'Challa to be power level 12, which is why I went with this setup. So we're going to just jump right into the ability score. You see his ability scores are relatively low. 0 strength, 2 stamina, 4 agility, 3 dexterity, 3 fighting, 0 intellect, 2 awareness, and 4 presence. Now you're probably looking at that 0 intellect and saying, but he is, even when he was a student, he was a very bright kid. I tried to reflect that in his skills, but yeah, like I said, that adds up to 36 power points of abilities. Now we look over here at defenses. He has 8 dodge, 6 parry, 7 fortitude, and 8 will. That comes out to 18 points in defenses. That helps with rounding him out. Now you see I have this 2/12. His basic toughness is 2 from his stamina, but he does have a force field that he can generate that he is worth 10 protection. So that is super important. Now, a lot of people are frustrated with the idea of a force field, right? With it being a sustained thing that you have to turn on, it's very easy for characters to get caught unawares. That's actually what happens in the scenario that I run through. And that is a really frustrating situation to be in, most definitely. Now, there is the trade-off that you can extra effort increase the ranks of a force field, but you cannot do that to armor our standard protection power. And also, you can, via extra effort, you can power stunt a force field. So that would be if a character was shaping a force field into, let's say, a melee damage power, or power stunting the force field into an aura that would deal damage to someone as they came up. So let's see, reaction damage is 4 per rank. So with a protection 10, if you were power stunting, that would be a reaction damage 2, where if someone landed a melee hit on you, they would hit you, but they would instantly take 2 damage themselves. Now, it's up to you. Your mileage may vary how much you like that, or what you could do with that. 10 points, again, isn't a whole lot to do with that, but it can be pretty useful. So, now let's jump down to the skills and advantages, so we can take a look at what makes a lot of Virgil. Alright, so for the skills, I gave him 4 ranks in acrobatics and athletics because he was an athletic individual. I gave him 6 ranks in expertise pop culture because he was a bit of a nerd and a fanboy and of like anime, comics, and all that stuff. I gave him 5 close range ranks for his electro wave because he does have a close range power in there, and if we were to put any more close range powers on that array, he would get an 8 to hit for that. I gave him a 5 ranks in range combat with his electric array, again bringing that up to 8 to on hit for that. And then I gave him 8 ranks in technology because he was a nerd, a techie, and depending on which continuity you go on, he has different people making tech for him, or he's making tech for himself. Now, I did not give him the inventor advantage. Well, actually, yes, I did. Never mind. I meant to. Alright, so let's look at the advantages real quick. I gave him Inventor, Move by Action, Fearless, and Taunt. This is very light, and it's because his powers can be very expensive. The Inventor uses the technology ranks in order to actually allow him to make different gadgets, gizmos, tools, and whatnot to suit the situation as he sees fit. Having an 8 for that technology check means he's not going to be making super complicated things, but he can make little things to give him solutions to different problems. Move by action because he's a very mobile character. He can fly, he can do a whole bunch of stuff, and I gave him fearless because he's always been this like very brave individual going into situations that he wasn't always prepared for and opponents that a lot of times outclassed him, and he went in with his head held high, ready to take it on, and sometimes even throwing out wisecracks, which is why I gave him Taunt. Now, Taunt isn't going to do a whole lot because he doesn't have any ranks in Intimidation, so it's not going to be the most powerful thing. He does have the innate 4 in Presence, so he is going to get a 4 for that, but it's not going to do a whole lot. It's more for just kind of flavor there, so if you your mileage may vary on the Taunt yourself. Now, let's look at his power set. Now, this is a very full power set because he does a lot of stuff, okay? Alright, so we start with the basics. Immunity 10 to electricity, that is where he's immune to all forms of electricity. Hands down, he is immune to electricity from any source. Any descriptor of electricity he's immune to. So he has this flight disc that is Fly 7. He's on a platform. Now this means he can move a half a mile and around 250 miles per hour. It's really super fast. But I feel that suits his character. But it is limited because he does have to be on a platform. He can be knocked off of the platform, where if he takes damage, he has to take he may have to take an acrobatics check to try to hang on, and that can be difficult, or he can come into situations where he gets knocked off the platform. That is definitely a possibility. I gave him his Electro Shield, Force Field 10. Again, because it's Force Field, it's sustained. He has to use a free action every turn to maintain it, and he can get knocked out of it, but he can also power stunt it and do a variety of things with it. Now, senses, this is where things got really intense. He does have a radio sense where he can hear AM and FM waves, all kinds of stuff with his radio sense, and he has an acute analytical electro awareness. So he can sense electricity, he can analyze it, he can tell, he can even target it with attacks, so he can find it. Now, this one was a little bit goofy. He has a limited immunity to mind control. So I gave him immunity 10, mind control to half effect, because there was an instance in which someone tried to mind control him, and because of how their mind control worked, the electricity surrounding his brain stopped them from being able to reach him, or made it harder for them to reach him. So with half effect, that means it's either half of the time going to work, half of the time not, so he would have to take checks half as much against mind control, or when he takes the check, he would be taking a check against half the ranks of the mind control effect. Your mileage may vary on that, just like everything else. It's up to GM discretion how that translates, okay? Now, this is a big one that I did not honestly know he had when I started this project. Healing factor. That is really big. Regeneration 10 means he heals off 1 damage or status effect every turn. Every single turn. And that's like, he has a very powerful healing factor, and I had space, so I gave it to him. And it works out really well for his character. Alright, so now we get into the Electro Array. This is the really big one that he has a bunch of stuff on here. Now, I don't know what all the official names are because I am not a super big fan of the Static Shock comics. So correct me if I'm wrong. I just gave kind of generic names or names that I found when I was doing some resources. So he has an Electro Blast, which is a range damage 12, which that does pretty good damage for his power level. Ball lightning, range, burst area, damage 80. So, sorry, damage 8, not 80. Whew, that would be ridiculous. Okay. Range, burst area, damage 8, which is good. So it hits everything in a 30-foot area. Magnetic move is where he can move things that are magnetic. Now, the reason why I don't have a limiter on this is because I actually made it a complication that I'll go into when I get to its complications. So yeah, this is move object 12. Electro shapes. Create 8 movable electricity. This is where he can create things. That's one of the things he's done a lot with creating cages, creating bubbles, and just creating things that hold people in them. And he's shown a great amount of creativity in the comics and in his own cartoon with doing interesting things with his electro shapes. Now, taser punch. Now, this is normally he does taser punches or kicks, which I made affliction 12 cumulative. It's a fortitude check, but he has to land the hit. Has a fort DC of 22 because obviously it's rank 12. Dazed, stunned, incapacitated. So this is actually stunned. This is the usually called the stunned power, where it's dazed, stunned, incapacitated, affliction cumulative. And yeah, so that's a thing. This is one of his most powerful tools for being able to just get people down. Static cling. This is a ranged affliction, 8, dodge resistance. It has an extra condition and limited degree. It is cumulative, so we can stack it. And the first degree of failure gets them hindered and vulnerable, and the second degree of failure gets them defenseless and immobilized. Now, the caveat here is that he's sticking two things together, so that he's sticking someone to an immobile object. Now, I was talking about his complications, so let's jump right into there. The biggest thing with him is his weakness of insulators. There are some things that are just non-magnetic that his powers do not work on. And that could take the shape of his magnetic move just not working on non-magnetic objects. If the enemy is made of something that is just not able to conduct electricity, his powers just don't work on it whatsoever, which is where the electro shapes come into play, where he uses electricity to shape things to try to trap people who he can't touch with his other powers. And sometimes people can even walk through his electro shapes if they're insulated. So that is a really big thing for his character. So that's Virgil. That is Static Shock, PL10. And I'm actually really happy with that. He's very mobile. He has a huge variety of things that he can do. His Electro Blast is +8 to hit, 12 damage. That's very respectable for a PL10 character. His Taser Punch is, again, +8 to hit, affliction 12. That's great. And he doesn't have any of the modification advantages, where he can't modify the on hits and the damages by more than 2, but that kind of suits his character because he's still in training. So with that said, let's jump over here to the Black Panther. Alright, so this is T'Challa. So I'm going to run through this pretty quick. A lot of this is going to be a rehash of last time, okay? So, base strength of 3, stamina of 4, agility of 3, dex of 2, fighting of 6. I bumped his intellect from 1 to 6. Awareness of 2, presence of 1. Now, these slashes are because he has a supernatural power that is permanent and an 8. Well, that is permanent, not an 8, but it is permanent, and it does increase these stats. His strength goes up to 7, his stamina goes up to 7, and his agility goes up to 6. If you were to lose that, because that is complication, that power can be taken away, those go down to the lower numbers, and that would affect everything else, but I didn't feel like putting slashes, everything else. I just didn't have space on the sheet. Dodge and parry of 12, which means he's very hard hit, he's very fast. Fortitude of 12, will of 7. That is still the same from what it was at PL10, because that didn't really go up very much. This was more of an increase in equipment. This wasn't as much an increase in his personal stats for this, going up from power level 10 to power level 12. Now you will notice his claws do a lot more damage, and this kinetic blast wasn't there last time. So we'll get into that as well. So let's talk about his skills. His skills are pretty much the same: acrobatics, athletics, 8 acrobatics, 4 athletics, 6 in claws. He's got the 10 in tactics. Ignore this because this line right here was something I had to do just to get that to show as 16. So that's one wonky thing about this sheet. The 10 ranks in perception. Now, 9 ranks in technology, 1 rank in vehicles. The 9 in technology actually works a lot better now that he has the 6 intellect, which means he adds 15 to his technology checks. And advantages, he still has the improved initiative, uncanny dodge, power attack, takedown, evasion, move by attack, eidetic memory, and inventor. So that is still the same. Okay, so these are his complications. First off, we have the power loss, the Panther Blessing. He can be fed that potion that takes away all of the powers gained from the Panther Blessing. Or it may be some other thing that is a similar thing to that, some kind of vibranium mixture. And he has his motivation, where he's motivated by his responsibilities as the King of Wakanda. And then this is the suit charge. Now, I've touched on this a little bit before, but sometimes whenever you're dealing with really big and complicated mechanics, it's just a lot easier to fit them as complications to a power instead of trying to fit them through limitations or some combination of flaws and add-ons whenever there's not anything that directly fits it. So in this instance, this is what's called the suit charge. Every time the suit takes a hit that it can negate, when it negates it, it stores 1 charge, and the suit can hold a max of 5 charge. Now, if it takes a hit when its charges are at max, it will stop the attack. It will stop the attack, but it immediately expends the new charge in a kinetic blast that is focused inwards that he cannot dodge. So he will instantly have to roll a toughness check against 10 damage, which will be a DC of 25. Now, this is a thing where, on the one hand, that's like, well, that still stops the attack, so he's still pretty good. On the other hand, that can add up, and a lot of times he's going to be rolling. It's like it's going to end up being more damage than most of the hits, and as soon as he deals with an enemy that understands how it works, they're not even going to care about damage. They're just going to focus on accuracy, and you're going to have enemies that are just going to be trying to hit him just for the sake of triggering the suit. I'm recording. Sorry. He's going to have enemies that are just going to be trying to hit him for the sake of proccing his suit overcharging. Now, that can be terrifying. It's up to you it's up to your GM how terrifying that is. Now, let's get into his powers now that we've gone through all of that. We've got the Panther Blessing that I was talking about, which is the Stamina +3, Strength +4, Agility +3, Protection 2, Speed 3, Regen 5, Leap 2, Dodge 2, Parry 2, and the Senses 4 with the Acute Extended Tracking Scent and Improvision. Now, I'm aware that Regen 5 is half of the speed of Virgil's, but I wanted that to be a thing where he has less regen, but he has more damage, dealing a lot more of other things. You can mess with this as you see fit. Now we got down to the Panther Habit. Now, the Panther Habit is 36 points removable. That's after the removable. So it's got 3 features. The first 2 is that it regenerates, and it has a built-in comlink. Now, the regeneration is that it is not indestructible. It can take damage because it's made of tiny little nanites that can be pulled apart. Whenever it's hit, if someone were to target it with sonic attacks or just target the suit directly instead of just trying to hurt him inside of the suit, they can damage the suit, but it will regenerate. How long it takes to regenerate is between you and your GM, and it's kind of situational. It could take a couple seconds, it could take a round, whatever. Depends on the severity of the damage. And it has a built-in comlink that he can communicate through any distance to someone with one of those communication beads. They need the beads, he needs his helmet, it works just fine. Now, it's the third feature is that it is stored in a necklace whenever not in use, and it's a quick change. So I usually treat that as a free action. You can treat that as whatever you need it to be for the sake of your game. Right? Now, his claws, I bumped up the damage here from the PL10 version with it being strength-based damage 5, so it's going to be 12 damage and penetrating 12, so the whole thing's just going to ignore impervious, okay? Now, he has the concealing boots, which is the concealment 2 from all types of sound, so that costs 4 points there. Now we get to the immunity to toughness. So this is immunity 80 ranks to all toughness checks, right? It has 2 limitations. The first is that it's noticeable. When it goes active, right? They realize they didn't hurt him, and they will see his suit charging, and it will glow more based on how many charges it currently has. And because it is noticeable, it is very, very easy for an enemy to put 2 and 2 together and realize what's happening as it's storing charges. So this isn't a thing where it's going to take a genius level intellect to realize they just need to overcharge him. As soon as they see it start charging, some enemies are going to say, okay, let's just keep pelting him and see what happens when he finishes glowing. Now, the other limitation is that it cannot stop energy attacks. It can only stop kinetic blasts. So that's going to be, just all forms of physical damage plus regular explosions like shockwaves, because those are kinetic energy. But things like lightning bolts, things like magic or arcane magic, things like fire or ice, he's not going to be able to stop with this suit. And again, he has the kinetic blast, which is an area of effect burst damage 10 centered on him. And he can, like I said, he can power stunt this and use this for getting some jump distance for a leap. He can use it for increasing damage, get some damage with the additive modifier, so then it's being added to his claws or to his physical strikes. Probably not claws, probably physical strikes actually, because he only has 7 damage on that. Yeah, so he could use this to increase the damage on his physical strikes if for whatever reason he didn't want to use his claws. So there's a lot of things he could power stunt this into. So that is very powerful. And yeah, so that is Black Panther. Like I said, now remember when I said that you cannot have something be a limitation, some kind of a flaw, and be a complication. That doesn't work. You don't get to double dip. So that's why I couldn't put the charge limitations as a complication, because he's going to be like, he's going to be having that as a complication. So I hope you like it. Now, some people may notice I did not put his powers as a King of the Dead, any of his necromancer abilities, and I don't have a lot of the other specialty gadgets on here. The primary reason for that is I wanted to design a base PL12 Black Panther. I feel like if when he got the powers of being a god of the dead, which I believe he did end up getting taken away, he would have been elevated from a PL12 up to a PL14, and that is not in the scope of what I'm designing today. And it's powerful, and I may design that at some other point in time. And as for the gadgets or gizmos, I would definitely treat those as inventions, one-use inventions that he designs for specific situations, which then comes down to his invention, and you could give him the benefit of wealth or of being a king, so then he could have access to the things from his kingdom. It's up to you as to how you're going to treat that, between you and your GM. Anyway, so look forward to that, and we're going to jump into story time, where you will see this in action against the young Virgil, against Static Shock, in a pretty interesting story time. So stay tuned for that. Are you ready? Let's go. Alright everybody, so thanks for sitting through everything so far. Welcome to story time at the tail end of the video. I know this is a bit of a longer video than normal, and that's because I'm going through 2 characters. The combat's also going to be a little bit different, so this should be a little bit more intense. Let me know what you guys think. I'm sorry for the lack of music. I'm still trying to nail down what music I can and can't do on here. I do want this to be a more enjoyable experience for you guys. I'm just trying to get used to the copyright stuff. I don't want someone else putting ads on my video besides me. And I don't want to get copyright strikes, so sorry about that. There's no real new mechanics to explain here. There is the limitation that vibranium is non-magnetic. It is a conductor of electricity, but it's non-magnetic, which means Virgil cannot just pick up and throw pieces of vibranium equipment around. And if they're fighting in Wakanda, there's not a whole lot of things he's going to be able to grab and move. So that is a limitation of Virgil, where that's a difficult thing for him. So we'll see how this all pans out. Are you ready? Let's go. It had been 2 days since the portal opened, and Virgil had fallen through into the strange new Earth. He'd been rescued by what appeared to be some kind of futuristic African tribe and brought to a king who said his name was T'Challa. T'Challa had taken him to some room with weight equipment and training weapons all everywhere and told him they would have a sparring match. Told him something that there's some calamity that's coming that Virgil's going to need to help fight. And if he fights, he might be able to go home. This is just a sparring match, Virgil, and a chance to test your abilities. He's underestimating me, Virgil thinks as he hovers on his board. Let's just get this done, old man. Virgil doesn't understand this universe or its rules, but this guy with a metal suit thinks he can train him for some upcoming crisis. Panther leaps at the teen from another dimension and swipes with his claws before Virgil attempts to put his force field up. Virgil's caught unprepared by the Panther's speed, and he's knocked almost completely off his feet by the old man's claws. He feels his healing factor instantly start to click in. He's glad that still works in the strange Earth. He puts up his force field and he tries to electrify his punches to taser punch the old man to get him out of his face, but he can't keep up with the speed of the trained fighter. Still in the stunned teen's face, he's afraid this might be over too soon, but he realizes he needs to test his claws against this teen's force field, and he swipes. He's able to get a good purchase with his claws, but the force field's able to just barely deflect and push him off for no damage. Virgil's better able to respond. He's getting a feel for the old man's moves. The Panther leaps to the side, waiting to see what the teen can do. Catching his breath, he feels his healing factor doing its thing. Virgil remembers the old man told him that the metal they used for everything was non-magnetic, and he starts to wonder if it'll absorb his electricity. Well, there's only one way to find out. He fires an electro burst at the crouching Catman, and he manages to hit him, and he sees the reaction of pain as he flinches, and he says, "Oh, that hurt, old man?" Static's still dazed on his board. "By vast, that hurt," T'Challa says to himself. "That reminds me, I need to finish the insulator in case I have to fight any other electricity users." His healing factor is doing its own thing, and he has to catch his breath and focus with meditation in order to keep from being knocked over. Static realizes that he needs to be done with this as he sees the old man healing. He realizes this is going to become a battle of attrition, and that old man hits him like a truck. His healing factor is the only reason he's keeping up with a faster, more capable fighter. He tries to form an electro cage around the Black Panther to hold him. The Black Panther is able to backflip out of the way before the cage can snap shut. "Oh, that was creative," T'Challa thinks to himself. He jumps at the boy and this time has his claws out, charging Virgil. This child is proving a creative and dangerous opponent. For all of Virgil's own superhero work, he's still no match for the superior skills of the Black Panther. These claws strike home, knocking him straight back. Static's healing factor is the only thing that's keeping him up, but still, it can only go so far. He's staggered and can barely stand. He tries to fire another electric blast at the Panther, but the Panther just backflips away. Not bad for a first spar, this child. His cage showed tactical potential, but when backed into a corner, he seems to be falling on stale tactics, T'Challa thinks to himself. Then again, he's using none of his own gadgets or specialties for this, just his claws. "Time to end this, Static," he says, as he leaps at Static, claws out, trying to slam with all of his body weight. He hits Virgil hard. Virgil just barely hangs on with all he's got, but T'Challa's suit absorbs the knockback of his own force. "Now I got you, old man," he says, as he plants his feet and puts all of his effort into this punch, everything into it. He looks like he's going to miss, but he channels everything, remembers every experience he's had as he puts it into his punch hitting. It catches T'Challa off guard. It's almost about to hit him straight in the face, but he's just barely able to move his face to the side so it skids along his cheek, but he feels the electricity and the force force of this punch. If it had hit him, he would have gone down. The electricity surging through his body, overwhelming his nervous system. He's still dazed, and this is hurt so bad. T'Challa is impressed with the boy's dedication and his ability to catch him off guard. He decides that he needs to respond in kind and end this. Planting his own feet, he brings his claws into an uppercut, raking along Static's chest, putting his full force and effort, straining all of his muscles into this claw strike. Lifts Virgil off of the ground, cutting him open as he falls to the ground in a shower of blood and pain. Virgil is unconscious, but not dead. As he's phasing in and out of consciousness, he sees T'Challa standing over him. "You fought well, Virgil, and in the coming battle, you'll be a valuable asset. Let this defeat show you the scale that we are fighting on. If you survive, then you should make it home." This youth has collapsed at the king's feet. The king could have killed him, but he only knocked him unconscious. With his healing factor, it'll most likely be less than a minute till the youth is back on his feet. T'Challa can still feel the electricity surging through his nervous system, making it hard for he himself to keep on his feet. Really need to finish that insulation layer. Alright, so that was a fight between two heroes. They were using hero points in order to re-roll things. They were using their power attack and other kinds of attack modifiers in order to try to make things hit where necessary. In that final punch, what Virgil did was he extra efforted to increase the ranks of the punch, and then he power attacked in order to decrease the on-hit but increase the damage, and then he cashed in a hero point to re-roll the on-hit. This was literally all of the things piled together to one punch for that taser punch, because if the taser punch had landed, there was a decent chance it would have put T'Challa down. So then, when it landed, T'Challa rolled his own fortitude check against that shock. His first roll was a natural 1. Now, that is not a critical fail. That's not a thing in this situation, but realizing that that was going to be a failure, T'Challa cashed in a hero point in order to re-roll that and stop that from knocking him out. But even with the re-roll, he still ended up getting dazed. He still ended up getting that first degree of failure. And had the fight gone on and Virgil continued to use and pile on the taser punches, he could have brought T'Challa down. Or through a variety of other means as well. And that's why T'Challa was motivated to respond in kind. Now, remember when I was going through T'Challa's motivations, I said one of his motivations is his sense of responsibility to himself and to his people. The entire point of this scenario is that he's going out of his way to train Static because he believes Static will be a valuable resource to help him in protecting his people. That is his primary motivator, so that is where he got a bonus hero point from. And he was able to plant his feet to his own power attack. Now, T'Challa has the power attack advantage, which I felt very much represents his training and his martial arts capabilities. So he's able to increase the damage vastly on that swipe, striking it straight up Virgil's body. When he did that, he used a hero point to guarantee the hit as well. And he extra efforted to make sure that that even went up another rank, and that ended up being actually necessary to take Virgil down. Because of their healing factors, this is the potential to become a huge battle of attrition, which is why it was very important for one of them to land one big hit or get some kind of a status effect, because their healing factors were just going to keep rolling. Yes, Virgil has the higher healing factor, but T'Challa just does more damage. Anyway, so this has been today's video. I'm very sorry for the delay on that. I hope you guys enjoy this. It's going to be a couple days till I get the Sunrider video. It's a very special video that's going to be coming out for Sunrider. Stuff has just been very hectic on my end. I'm probably going to be moving soon, and when I move, I'm going to be in a place with internet, which is going to be super exciting, and I'll be able to upload more consistently, and I might even be able to get back to streaming, which could be really awesome. So look forward to the future and all of the possibilities that come with that. Leave a like, comment down below. Let me know what you guys think, what you would do differently, what you would change. I've had a lot of requests for T'Challa and for doing this kind of non-minion versus non-minion combat. Did you like that? Would you like it just to go back to regular Fistful of Nazis? What kind of music would you guys like in the background? Leave it all down in the comments below. Also, if you want to do a sub for sub, because I know some people are here for that, leave it down in the comments below. I'll be glad to sub your stuff. If you're a content creator yourself, I love to watch different kinds of content and just have more fun on YouTube. So leave that down below. Also, if you have any friends you think are really interested in this kind of stuff, who they like superheroes, they like Mutants and Masterminds, they like tabletop RPGs in general, please give this a share. Share this with them. Let them know about my channel. I'm looking to grow. I'm looking to improve my audience. And if you have any suggestions for how to improve my videos, please let me know. I am always looking for more advice about how to improve and how to grow and get better. So, with that said, I gotta say, remember the motto: shoot through the stars, have wonderful adventures, live your dreams, and always, always, always enjoy some memes. Have a good one, everybody.